Okay, well, we are going to go ahead and get started this morning, and I want to say good morning, everyone. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs. Oh, I hear somebody's got their mic unmuted.
It's us.
That's us? That's us? Who just said that? Oh, all right, good. Whoever said it realized it and muted it. So I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And again, my name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee the youth and educational programs, and we're really excited to connect with you guys as a part of this Heart of the Hall of Famer series featuring Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Chris Doleman. And I do see we have a couple schools that are veterans of this program, but I also see we have a few schools that are new to the program, and I think all the students are new to the program as well. But the real idea and premise behind this series is to convey what it took to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. And we know our Hall of Famers like Mr. Doleman are awesome examples of athleticism, skill, and talent. But I can let you guys in on a little secret. It took a lot more than that to get in the Hall of Fame. It took the core character qualities, those core character qualities that you guys are studying, the 6 pillars of character, the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, and even more to get into the Hall of Fame. And to let you guys know another little secret is that those aren't core character qualities to being a great football player. Those are core character qualities of being a Hall of Famer in everyday life, whether it's being the very best student you can be, whether it's being the very best brother or sister, the very best friend, the very best business person, the very best baseball player or football player, and the very best citizen of your community. So we're excited to give you guys the opportunity here today to talk with one of the greatest football players that has ever played. Just to give you guys an idea how elite of an athlete Mr. Doleman is. Think about this for a second. Since the NFL started in 1920, there have been over 20,000 players that have played in the National Football League. There are only 280 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And out of those 280, it's only about 240 that are actually players. So 240 out of over 20,000 players, you get an idea of just how big of an honor it is to be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So think about all your great football players, especially on the defensive side, since that's the side Mr. Doleman played on. The great defenders out there, whether it's the recently retired Ray Lewis or Troy Polamalu, or whoever your favorite defensive player is out there. They aspire to be in Mr. Doleman's shoes someday and be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I would imagine that if they knew more about Mr. Doleman's background and about what he does off the field as well, that they would aspire to be him off the field as well. So with that being said, programs like this cannot happen without a great football team here. And there are a number of teammates, I'll call them, that have helped make this program possible. First and foremost, we have to thank our friends at Polycom there in Atlanta for hosting them. I know Carrie Edwards is there, Carrie Robertson, Kim Johnson, Chris Pickering, Keith Rutledge, all the folks there at Polycom. Thank you very much for opening up your doors and allowing Mr. Doleman to come into your studios there in Atlanta, Georgia, and letting us broadcast this out. This program wouldn't have taken place without your guys' help, so thank you very much. We always have to thank our friends at eTech Ohio who bridged this conference through our State Department of Education, allow all these conferences, all these different connections to come into one point. So Mark and Paul and Josh and Kenny and all those folks that are behind the scenes there troubleshooting with the schools, thank you very much for your help. We always have to thank our teachers, because our teachers have to make the sacrifice. They have to prepare the students to have character-ready questions. They have to make the time schedule. Getting them out of different classes to bring your students into this. I know it takes sacrifice on your part and a lot of preparation for that. So we thank you very much for all the things that your teachers have done to make this program a success. And last but definitely not least, we obviously have to thank these students, because as we always say, you are the drivers of today's program. You will be the ones asking the questions and steering kind of where this program is going to go. So thank you, students, for all the work that you've done to make this program possible. What we'd like to do, though, is I'd like to recognize each of the schools. So number one, Mr. Doleman can see where you're from. but also number 2, so all the other schools that are tuned in can see where you guys are from. So when I call upon your school, what I want you to do is unmute your microphone for a second at that point, and go ahead and give a shout out for your school. Feel free to cheer. We can see who's the loudest. I apologize, teachers. Close the doors on your classrooms. But we'll give all the schools a chance to give a little shout out to show some school spirit. So first, we'll go to one of our veterans of this program. They've done a number of these throughout the last 3 years. Let's go to New Jersey, Parlin, New Jersey. Samso Upper Elementary School. All right, thank you, Samso. And we're going to shoot over to New York, neighboring there, you guys, Hornell Junior High.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah!
Not bad, Hornell. Little lacking compared to your neighboring state there in New Jersey, but not bad, not bad. We'll go from New York to Arkansas. Let's go to Cobb Middle School.
Yeah!
Wow, I think they've got this so far. Thank you, Cobb. Go ahead and mute there. Let's go to Tennessee, Marshall County High School. Not quite that good of a cheer, but a good laugh. I appreciate it. You made me laugh too, so thank you very much, Marshall. And last but definitely not least, let's go to Nebraska, Lindsay, Nebraska, at Holy Family. Thank you, Holy Family. So we appreciate you guys tuning in as well. Again, we'll remind the schools, and I think you guys have all been great on this so far. We'll remind all the schools to please keep your microphones muted so we can eliminate any background noise so it's not distracting to any of the other schools. Even when I call upon you to ask the question, once you ask your question, if you can mute your microphone immediately afterwards, again, so we can eliminate any background noise. So with that being said, what I would like to do is introduce our featured speaker here today, and that's Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Chris Doleman. And let me read a little bit about his on-the-field success and his off-the-field success as well. He was drafted as a linebacker in the first round by the Vikings in 1985. He moved to starting defensive end late in the second season. 8 team sack titles, 6 with the Vikings, 1 with the Falcons, and 1 with the 49ers. He led the NFL, get this, with 21 sacks, and that was at that time 1 shy of the record. That was back in 1989. He had a career sack total of 150.5 sacks, which was 4th best in NFL history at the time of his retirement. He had 8 seasons with 10 or more sacks, and he was elected to 8 Pro Bowls. So he was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now that's a little bit of his on-the-field success. His off-the-field, he currently owns two companies, Chris Doleman Pro Auction and Celebrity Charitable Network, which just turned about 3 years old, and their goal is helping nonprofits, so helping organizations even like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who is a nonprofit, helping them achieve their goals and help with fundraising. Pro Auction is a new online service that integrates social media and fundraising by hosting online auction events for all levels of charitable and nonprofit organizations, as well as the Celebrity Charitable Network was started as a means to help athletes, companies, and nonprofits get the tools and knowledge they need in order to help them make a significant impact in their fundraising and social good efforts. So, as you can hear from Mr. Doleman's background, obviously someone who's been tremendously successful on the field, but also off the field. And I think off the field, if you start looking at your 6 pillars, I think what you'll really start tuning in on is the case with many of our Hall of Famers as well, is that the caring and the citizenship, you really start seeing them shine, I guess, so to speak, in the areas that they're really passionate about beyond just football, and that's through their charitable organizations. And ultimately, in 2012, and he could share with you, maybe it was one of his biggest honors in his life, both on and off the field. Mr. Doleman was enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and as we already talked about, it's the pinnacle of success for any individual player to be enshrined in here into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So with that being said, what I would like to do is ask Mr. Doleman to share any opening remarks that he would like to share with you students, and then after that, we'll dive right into Q&A, and I'll moderate that. So, Mr. Doleman, the microphone is yours, sir.
Well, thank you, Jerry. First of all, I'd like to say good morning to all the schools that are tuned in today. This is a great opportunity for me and an honor for me to be able to speak to you and share a little bit about my life and what brought me where I am today. I appreciate the Pro Football Hall of Fame giving me this opportunity to spend time with you, and it's just it's a real honor. A little bit about myself, and I understand Jerry explained something. I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was raised in York, Pennsylvania. I was raised in a very small town. It was, more of an industrial town. Father worked at Caterpillar Tractor Company. Mother was a teacher's aide at the local high school. I got involved in sports and after school activities at a very early age. I started playing football when I was 8 years old, and I retired when I was 38. So it's pretty much been my whole life. And to be able to have that opportunity to stay active, to stay, build your friendships around people who are like-minded was, I think, a big determining factor for me, for the simple fact that I was always around people that were interested in doing the right things. I thought that being involved in team sports, if it was football, basketball, volleyball, no matter what it was, I was always doing something each season. It, one, kept me involved in my school, but most importantly, it kept me involved with the community and being a part of the community. Since my pro football induction, there's been a lot of great things that has happened from that. Even in that little small town that I grew up in York, Pennsylvania, they've named a street after me. They've honored me with a number of different things, along the way. I've rekindled friendships with students that I went to school with, and it was really a celebration for the community, not just for me. And it's been a wonderful experience. And when I look back on this and I say, this was something that, I don't think you can really plan. I think, you plan for life, but you can't plan that you're going to make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it is one of the greatest honors that has happened to me thus far. But I will continue to do the things that God lays on my heart. Serving my community, spending time with my family and friends, and being someone who make life here in this country and around the world a better place. So, with all that said, I would say thank you for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to communicating with all you with their questions and answers.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Doleman. And as we said, students, what we're going to do is we'll rotate through each school. We'll start with Samso, go to Hornell, Cobb, Marshall, and Holy Family. And we will allow each school to ask one question. And again, reminder to make sure to mute your microphones immediately after that. And then we will rotate through as many times as we possibly can throughout the program. So with that being said, Samso, go ahead with your first question of the program.
Why is it important to have good character on the football field?
Well,
why is it important to have? Oh, you heard it.
Okay. It's very important to have good character on the football field. First of all, when you're lining up and you're playing any sport, you have teammates. And with your teammates, they have responsibilities, and you are responsible to them. So, when you have good character, they want to know exactly what's going on out there. You don't want to tell them that, you were someplace that you weren't on the field. That's one of the reasons why they film practice, so that guys are always under that scrutiny of that. You have to be honest with the people that you're playing with. If you didn't do a good job, just say, I didn't do a good job. I did the best I could at the time. But that is all part of the process. Character not only helps you on the field, but it also determines what type of person you are once you leave the field. There's that thing where that people see you if you're the type of guy that's in the locker room that starts trouble or, steals things or do things that they're not socially acceptable. That carries with you when you step outside the field.
And I would imagine, Mr. Doleman, if you had any of those type of teammates on your team that did those sorts of things, that I would imagine beyond the playing field, you probably didn't associate with them, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. There's guys that that have reputations where that other players will not do business with them because they're not the most honest, or they won't do what's best for the group. They'll always do what's best for them, but they won't do what's best for everybody else that's involved in what they're doing.
Great. Thank you, Sam. So we appreciate the first question of the program. And let's go to New York. Hornell?
When you were younger, what do you think shaped you into who you are today?
I think I would give sports, I would give my parents, my community. Those were the things that shaped me. I never wanted to do anything, even as a player. I never wanted to do anything to embarrass my family, my friends, because when you're out there playing, or when you're out there in the world, playing or not playing, all that has a reaction to how people see your family and those you care about. So you want to make sure that you exemplify the best that you can be, at all times. And at that point in time, it becomes a habit. So now, you don't just lie about things. You don't take things that, you're not supposed to take. You don't cheat. You try to be above board where that, people say, you know what, he's a good person. And I think that's really one of the best compliments that you can get, that, when someone looks at you and they talk about you behind closed doors and they say, he's really a good person. He does what's right. Those are the things that kind of crafted me and shaped me into where I am today.
And I think, talking about, great question there, Hornell. And talking about your childhood, Mr. Doleman, one of the things you shared in your opening remarks that I think is a resounding theme with this program we've done with 40-plus Hall of Famers. You mentioned something about you had friendships with people that were like-minded, that were, on the same goal, that were going to challenge you to do those things. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I don't know, the students always get lectured about, be careful what friends you choose and something like that. But I don't think they may not realize how impactful that is on their life, the company that they keep. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, absolutely. There's an old saying: if you don't have a plan for life, life will have a plan for you. And when you think about that, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm gonna say it again if you're writing it down. If you don't have a plan for life, life will have a plan for you. So if you have a plan for life, if I'm interested in going to college, I don't want to hang out with that group that is interested in gang banging, doing things that are illicit, using drugs, because that's not going to get me to where I want to go. Now, if you don't have a plan, you're kind of like a dandelion or a feather that's blowing in the wind. Whatever you stick to, that's where you end up. Now all of a sudden I'm hanging out with the druggers in the schools, and the guys who are drinking, and we're trying this, and now we're doing all kinds of things that naturally, I think in everybody there's that little voice that talks to you and says, you know what, this is really just not right. Or you get that feeling. It doesn't have to come to you in words. You get that feeling when you know that what you're doing isn't right, versus the feeling when you do something that is, you deem is right, and you feel elated and you're happy, and everyone is hugging you and telling you a great job. Well, when that opposite feeling exists. So you want to make sure that you're in that circle of friends that support all the things that you want to do. You want to make sure that if you want to go to college, you hang out with people who are like-minded that want to go to college. You have to, you don't want to spend that time with the group that, who are going, smoking weed behind the building. I mean, because that's not going to get you in college.
Thank you, Mr. Doleman. And let's go to Arkansas, to Cobb Middle School.
Who influenced you the most in your life?
I don't think there's one really influence. There's a lot of influences. You don't want to have one person influencing you because that person might not be the person who you think. I think you look at a group of people that you admire and you try to take those positive things from the people that you admire, that group. My father, my mother, my coach, my best friend's dad. I mean, you take all these little pieces and you say, you know what, this is what I admire about this person, and you adapt that into you, versus just picking one particular person, and that person turns out to be that do something that would let you down. So now you lost faith in all man, or particularly in that person. So I think it serves you better to pick different people that you actually know. I wouldn't focus on people you see on TV because you don't know those people, but people that are in your community. If it's your dentist, if it's your doctor, if it's your fathers, your mother, it's the lady that works in the drugstore. I mean, these are the people that you have contact with every day, and that will talk to you and give you good life experiences, through their experiences. So, and sound advice. So, if you look at it kind of like that, I think, you want to stay close to home and pick people that keep you grounded and people that you know that you can talk to at any point in time.
Another great question there from Cobb. Let's go to Tennessee, Marshall County.
How dedicated were you, and what was your work ethic like towards the sport of football?
Very dedicated. Unlike, children of today, there's so many different avenues that you can do. Most kids don't play football anymore. They play video games. I think when I was, coming up, Odyssey was the biggest game. Then there was Atari or something like that. We actually physically got out and played sports. And that is the thing that you have to do today. If you want to be like a LeBron James, or if you want to be like, Tom Brady, you can't play it on a video game. You have to literally get out and play the sport. That's what hones your skill. And once you get out and you play the sport and you understand the sport and you learn all the little idiosyncrasies of the sport, then you can excel in the sport. I mean, I can watch videos all day on how to play, a guitar, but until I pick up a guitar, it doesn't mean anything. You actually have to get your hands dirty and get involved in it. I mean, I said earlier, I started playing when I was 8 years old. I retired when I was 38 years old. So that's every single summer for 30 years that I was doing, playing football. But it wasn't work. You can't go because you think it's going to be, a payday. You can't do it if you think it's going to be, famous from it. You have to do it because you love it. And if you love it, and you care about it and you work hard at it, then you develop the skills to play it.
Thank you. Great question there, Marshall County. Let's go to Holy Family. Let's go to Nebraska.
Was there ever a time you considered giving up pro football because you felt it would negatively affect your career?
Never. It was never a time in my life that I ever thought about giving up football, period. That's all part about being dedicated to it. There was times where it, wasn't as much fun as it was earlier in your career. I mean, I played on some teams when I was younger that weren't as successful. You didn't win as many games, but I never ever thought about, quitting on the sport. My parents had one rule, and my dad in particular. Once he signed you up for something, you had to finish it out. Now, you didn't have to play it the second year, but that first year, you were committed to it. And you were making all the practices because he was taking you to practice. You were, you made sure that, if you weren't good enough to play, that's part of the deal, but you're going to work while you're there. And it became second nature pretty much to me. where that you go to practice, you play, win. That's great. If you lose, you still learn something from that and you move forward. So, no, I never ever thought about giving up, playing football.
Thank you very much, Holy Family. Let's go back to the top again. Let's go back to our friends in New Jersey. Samso?
Go ahead. What did you like about school the best?
Gym class? No. You guys don't even have gym anymore, I don't think. The things I liked about school, I love science. I still even watch, like the Discovery Channel and, Dr. Oz and the doctors and anything that has to do with science. I always love science. Um, those were kind of my core comfort classes where you felt, very relaxed and you just kind of ate it up.
And I have to say that even though science wasn't my favorite, it's my wife is a science teacher, and at our house now, that's all I see is science stuff. We have a Chilean red-haired tarantula in our house right now because it's for her science class. So, so science, even though I didn't like it, I'm absorbed by it right now.
There
Let's
you
go
go.
to let's go to Hornell.
Who, when you were first drafted to the Vikings, like push you on and off the field?
When I was first drafted by the Vikings, I was, Bud Grant had a reputation of cutting their first round picks. I mean, if he didn't think you were a good pick or a good player, he would literally trade you, get rid of you. He wasn't going to keep you on a team. Matt Blair was the guy who kind of, explained to me what it took to be a professional. I accepted that. I listened to my older peers because these are guys who've been there before. And I guess if there's a strong suit that I have is to listen to other people and take that experience and use it for yourself. Don't have to, not going down that road and recreating the wheel. If someone says, "Hey, look, you don't want to do that because it's going to hurt your career," he told me a great example was, "You want to live in Minnesota when you play here. It gives you roots. People kind of bond to you, and it makes playing here a lot easier." I did it for 10 years, and Minnesota's not a particularly warm place to live, but you know what? Everyone just welcomed me with open arms. And, I went into the Vikings Ring of Honor, 50 greatest players, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You would think that, I was running for governor or mayor or something. I mean, it was just the response that you got from the town and how proud they were of you. It's really amazing. So, I guess, Matt Blair, to answer that question for you, explain to me how to be a professional and what it means to stay in Minnesota.
And students, I think that's so important that you guys have people in your lives every day now, whether it's your teachers, whether it's your parents, whether it's some of your peers, whether it's your pastor, whether it's your coaches, that are there to help you. And help you through situations that you encounter. And for the lack of a better word, but it's funny that we do this. If we have a problem in sports, we have no problem typically as a player going to our coaches saying, "Hey, I need work on free throw shooting. What do you suggest?" "Okay, well, let's work on your mechanics. Let's shoot 100 free throws every day, and we'll get this better." But for some reason in the classroom, we're scared to ask those questions. We're scared to say, "Hey, I'm having trouble in science class," or "I'm having trouble in math class." And we're scared to ask that question and ask for help. And, he said that he was good at listening, and not only listening, but following through on that listening too, and applying those things to his life. And I think that's so important for you students not to be scared to ask questions. So I guarantee you in your classroom right now, if you're sitting there with 30 students and you had a question about a particular thing you were having trouble, I guarantee there's at least 5 other people in that classroom that had the same question that didn't raise their hands. And I know I rambled on for a little second there. Mr. Doleman, would you like to share anything in regards to that, asking for help?
Well, you touched on it. I mean, someone that you're in, close contact with on a daily basis is your teachers. And, they're very consistent. They're there every day. You're there, 180 days out of the year? I think it's a school calendar. That's a vital resource. I mean, just because you're a teacher doesn't mean that that's the only thing you can do. They do this job because they love students and they love the fact that they can teach. I mean, but really, you talking about who should get the big money, Joey Falco signed for $120 million. Well, you throw a football and you had one good year. But I mean, look at the teachers that are out there that are committed to, who are spending money out of their own pockets to buy student supplies so that they can teach you. These are the real heroes of our society. And we have to get behind more of education and our teachers, just for the simple fact, as a country, we're going to fall behind. And we are falling behind. It's not we're going to. We are falling behind. And we're falling behind at such a rapid rate that, America that you know today might not be the same America that you would know when your kids are born.
And you said you had fans in Minnesota. I think you just have 5 schools that are 5 teachers that are fans of Mr. Doleman right now as well. They might elect you mayor with those sentiments there. Let's go to Arkansas, to Cobb Middle School.
You mentioned a charity a little while ago. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because we don't know what it's exactly for.
Yes. I started 2 companies. Chris Doleman Pro Auctions. And it's basically an auction site that we work with nonprofits. We get them memorabilia and those types of things. The thing that I'm loving the most, and we've been having a lot of success with, is Celebrity Charitable Network, which is a platform of a lot of other companies that we've partnered with that would bring like a technology like Polycom has right now, where that you would have a face-to-face 2-minute conversation with, your favorite celebrity. And, for that, people would buy either a raffle ticket or bid to have that kind of conversation with them. Money that's earned would go to the celebrity's charity and Polycom for putting this on. Giving back has always been in my blood. When you're in the National Football League, on Tuesdays is your day to go visit hospitals. It's your day to do community service. People just don't sit around and you don't have any responsibilities. We all talk about being free, and I had this conversation with my son just the other day, is that, we really aren't free. We have freedoms, but we're not free. You don't have the ability to just walk past someone that is sick or who is hurt. I mean, that is something inside you where they'd say, you know what, maybe I can help this person. If you've seen someone who was injured, you would stop and say, hey, can I help you? That's just part of, that thing that God has put in us. Having the freedoms to sit up and deny, I just don't want to do that. I want to do my own thing type of thing. You can't have that. We have to have some kind of controls where that all of us, kind of work together. For example, imagine you asked a question, but everybody else who's sitting in that classroom want to ask a question while you're trying to ask your question. We're not going to hear anything. So you have to have some kind of conformity and some kind of order to kind of to get things done. My thing is, and I know you asked me about my charity stuff, my thing is about helping as many people as I can, doing as much as I can while I'm here and while I'm able to do this, because I don't want to be judged as, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I already have that title, and I'll have that for the rest of my life. But to be able to separate and say, you know what, this guy was not only a great football player, but he was an even greater humanitarian. He cared about people that he didn't even know. And he worked on a daily basis to help people that he didn't even know. So that's the thing that really drives me with the 2 companies that I started. and how they give back to the community. And everything we do is free. It's totally free to the charity. So it's not like you have to spend money to get a return. It's totally free.
Thank you very much. And students, as I said earlier, you start thinking about that those two pillars carrying a citizenship. I think, he just summarized what those are the two pillars that he really drives through. Are those two pillars. And something you'll find, students, is that unfortunately the media. And the only reason why media does it is because we we consume that information. You always hear the negative stuff in the NFL when a player gets in trouble or whatnot. But what you don't see are, every person that gets in trouble for something, just know that there's 9 people like Mr. Doleman that are doing great things in their community. That have their foundations and all across the country. So just remember that next time you hear something about a player getting in trouble. I think was that Cobb that just asked the last question? I think we're at Marshall. I lost track here.
How do you feel the leadership roles on the football field and in the business world are similar?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one again?
How do you feel the leadership roles on the football field and in the business world are similar?
Oh, it's all about character. It's all about being trustworthy. It's all about being responsible. It's all about being respectful. It's all about being, caring. It's all about being, a great citizen. Being, just fair. That's all part of those skills, those 6 pillars. It's becomes who you are outside of the football field. I mean, it's who you are when you're on the field, because these are things that coaches are demanding. But when you come off the field, they expect you to keep those same character qualities. You can't just change. So, I mean, it has been immensely important, because I can rest my hat on different things that I'm doing, and people can say, you know what, if he says it's good, or he researched it, or it's a good investment of my time or my dollars, then I can believe in what he's doing.
Great question there, Marshall. Let's go to Holy Family in Nebraska.
What was your favorite moment in a football game?
Oh, gosh. I guess probably any moment that would help your team win. And I'm talking about a big play where you get a sack, cause fumble, maybe an interception, something that turned the game. Those were always the favorites. Those are the things that people remember on Monday. So that'd probably be the most memorable stuff.
Okay, and let's go back to New Jersey. Samsel?
What are some tips you have for children who want to succeed in school?
Can you say that again? Can you repeat that, please?
What?
Slowly.
What are some tips you have for children who want to succeed in school?
Now, some advice for succeeding in school? Is that what she's asking?
You got it. Yep.
Okay. All righty. The advice would be focus in class. Make sure you study. Make sure you have people that you're around that are interested in the same things that you are interested in. So if you're in class, you don't want to sit next to the kid that don't want to pay attention, because that's distracting to you. Sit in the front of the class. Trust your teacher. If there's something you don't understand, reach out to her. You don't have to do it maybe right in front of everyone if you don't want to do that, but you can talk to her after class, and I'm sure she'll be willing to help you. So these are the things that I think that make you successful in that classroom, because sometimes the classroom can be, it's a big room. It can be scary. You got a lot of different things that are going on, and the closer you are to that person who is giving you that direction or teaching you, the more of it you'll receive.
Great question there, Sam. So, and let's go to New York again, Hornell.
When you were growing up, what professional athlete was like an influence to you, and who was that athlete?
Oh gosh, my biggest influences when I was growing up was probably, well, first of all, I love the Dallas Cowboys. Then I turned around and ended up hating the Dallas Cowboys because I played for the Niners and, playing with Minnesota and Atlanta. But I guess, I don't know if it was one player, but it was more like teams. I remember, watching Tom Landry and how he kind of ran his team, Chuck Noll and how he ran his team with the Steelers. These guys were very influential in my life as far as looking and seeing, these are quality leaders. Players can be, a leader within their group, but the guy who represents the whole team is the head coach. And these were always great head coaches. Bill Walsh, I mean, just a wonderful people and great leaders.
Thank you, Hornell. And let's go to Arkansas, Cobb.
Ready?
Did you ever have any bullies, like someone turning you down saying that you were terrible, and how did you react?
That's a good question. And that's something that's happening a lot nowadays. No, I didn't have any bullies. I was probably one of the biggest guys in my class and, and definitely in my grade. I was always that guy who helped out little guys, did not like to see bullies. My best friend, believe it or not, is probably about 5'7", 5'9". I'm 6'6". So, I mean, but we've been best friends ever since, grade school. At one point in time I was his size and, that was a long time ago. He hasn't grown much since then. I think with the bully situation is that those guys who bully people are really afraid of things that are happening in their life, and their response is to come out and go after someone else who is weaker or they perceive to be weaker. I would definitely speak to my teachers about someone who is bullying me, someone who is taunting me, because you should not have to, and I know you guys hear this a lot, you should not have to go to school in terror. School should be a fun place. School should be a place where hey, I'm gonna see all my buddies. We're gonna go to class. We're gonna have gym class. We're gonna eat lunch together. Not in a place where it's like, this guy here is tormenting me. It shouldn't be a place of torment. So, my thing is, I would rat them out, tell the teacher, tell the principal, whoever I have to tell, but I would make sure that person is taken out of the equation. Because if he's bullying you, he's bullying other kids.
Thank you very much, Cobb. That's a great question to ask, especially as Mr. Doleman shared something that's obviously caught a lot of national attention right now is bullying. Marshall County, if you want to go ahead in Tennessee.
How did you overcome the major adversity in your life?
Perseverance, faith. Life isn't guaranteed to be perfect. Life isn't guaranteed to be without problems. Matter of fact, life is a series of problems. So as soon as you understand that and adapt that and realize that this is just one more thing that I have to go through, the better off you'll be. The other thing is that, whatever your faith base is, that's what you lean on. And that's what gets you. This is what builds your character. If you went through and you never had any adversity, in your life, you really wouldn't even have, you wouldn't understand anything that would, when it would go wrong. So to be able to deal with if it's something at the house, something in school, something with your girlfriend, something, whatever it may be, this is all part of building your character. Now, you're going to have problems. The thing is, and you cannot control that problem, but this is very important here. The thing that you can control is how you respond to that problem. And that is 100% in your control. If someone do something to you, how you respond to it is totally on you. So, that's the thing that you always have to remember. You're not powerless in this situation. So I think that, if you can keep those thoughts in mind, I think, you can work through a lot of the stuff that, you might be going through.
And Mr. Doleman, can you share with them a little bit too, as you talk about, overcoming obstacles? Obviously, you talked about your faith, you talked about perseverance, but also I think a big part of that as well is preparation too. So whether you're coming up in the form of your obstacle for that day as a 300-pound offensive lineman, or whether it's a final on a math test, can you talk with them about your preparation for obstacles like that you knew were coming?
Well, there's an old saying, you plan for war in time of peace. If you haven't studied for that test or you haven't practiced, when that day show up and you haven't done any of those things, well, then you can't expect success. You have to prepare yourself for success. You have to go in there with the confidence knowing that, I can pass this test, I can beat this guy, whatever it may be, you prepare for that on the other side prior to that event happening.
Thank you very much. And let's go to Holy Family.
What is your favorite position to play in football?
Well, I was a defensive end. I was drafted as a linebacker in 1985, but it was just in 87 they moved me down. Yeah, 87. I went down to defensive line, and the rest, as they say, was history. It allowed me to find that position that I could really excel at, find that thing that I could really excel at, and that was at playing defensive line. So, I was very successful at that position.
And I'm showing we've got about 12 minutes left, so we should be able to rotate through one more question from each school. So let's start from the top. Let's go to New Jersey. I know you guys have to depart a couple minutes early there, Samsel, but got time for another question?
Go ahead, really loud, Steven. Why do you think it is important for me to show good character on a daily basis?
Well, it's important because it represents you. I mean, what you're putting out signals that saying either I'm trustworthy or I'm not. I'm an honest person or I'm not. These things directly affect you. And believe it or not, in this social age, in this digital age that you live in, that record will stay with you for the rest of your life. So you always want to do the right thing because now, there is cameras, there is, constant texts that keep you relevant. Quick example, people like Lindsay Lohan, who are constantly in the news for doing things that you just know that you don't do in society. She has to live with this stigma for the rest of her life. And she spends more time trying to change people's minds versus doing the right thing from the beginning. And that's a lot harder.
And I think one of our Hall of Famers used the phrase last time, a couple broadcasts ago, is that you have to be nearly perfect in your decision making. We're not always perfect, but you have to be in life choices. You have to be nearly perfect in the decisions you make, or else, and especially today, as Mr. Doleman alluded to, is that if you have a wrong I will figure out somebody's jamming some music there. Give me just a second. At least it's good music. Hey, Mark, your conference came Can you shut it off? Broadcast? I think one of the schools can even test the game. Okay. All right, thanks, bye. Should be off any second. There we go. There we go. So my apologies to all the schools. That's from our bridge, so that wasn't anything that you guys had done. So thank you, Samso. We appreciate the question. Let's go to Hornell.
Football is most of the time referred to as a team sport. How do you think teamwork teaches you about life?
Well, you're always going to have to work with someone in the office, at home. No one man's an island, and it teaches you a sense that acceptance. How about this here? And you never thought about this. You get to pick all your friends, but you don't get to pick your parents. You don't get to pick your brother. You don't get to pick your mom, dad, your sister. So that teaches you in itself how to work with people that are like you or not like you, and you can be in the same house. So teamwork is very important, and you always have to work together. You always have to work together. So it's one of those things where that, when you get in the office, it's not a sense of, I can do this all by myself.
Thank you very much, Hornell. And let's go to Cobb.
You talked about always having a plan. What plan do you have from now on?
Well, my plan right now is continuing to help, with the companies I started, helping charities and nonprofits. Like we just did some stuff for Staten Island Mental Health Society that were a lot of the kids that were up in the New York area that, were suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, from the Hurricane Sandy. And they were having a lot of issues with dealing with, losing their home and, family members or, everything that they own. So, that is my plan right now, is to continue to help and create an environment where that, those who have been helped can come back and help someone else.
Thank you very much, Cobb. Let's go to Marshall County.
What character qualities do you think it takes to what character qualities do you believe it takes to be a Hall of Fame player?
Commitment. I think if there's one, it would definitely be you have to be committed to what you're doing. And that is the thing that you can't quit. You can't take a summer off. You can put it under responsibility, or you can put it under, trustworthiness or respect or whatever it is. But whatever you choose to do, you have to be committed to it. You can't see it as something, I tried it and I don't like it and move to something else. You have to find something that you like and stay committed to it.
And I think just before you guys got connected in, Mr. Doleman shared with me that he can't stand being late or having to cancel. And some of the schools that were scheduled for this first time realized that Mr. Doleman suffered a little bit of a knee injury and couldn't do the broadcast back in January, and it drove him crazy that he couldn't do it. And I made the comment that, hey, you don't get in the Hall of Fame by missing appointments and being late. Mm-hmm. So it's exactly it. It's being committed. So whether it's being committed to the football team or being committed to just being here for a broadcast, for as a part of our educational programs, it's just commitment is in his heart, it's in his nature, and anything that he does. So I think that's obviously it's just who you are. So the earlier you can form that habit of being committed, it becomes pretty much who you are as you go later in life. Great question there, Marshall County. Let's go to Lindsay Holy Family.
What college did you go to, and how has that affected your success?
Went to the University of Pittsburgh, one of the oldest colleges in the country. I think they've been around since 1860 something. In the college merit of order, I think they're like maybe they're in the top 10. What has that done for me and how it influenced me? There's a lot of great history at the University of Pittsburgh. Jonas Salk, who came up with the polio vaccine, which was running rampant, in the early 1900s, was the University of Pittsburgh. So to be a part of that kind of history, not only sports history, but academic history, it makes you very proud. So that was definitely one of the reasons why I went there.
And thank you for the question there, Lindsay, Holy Family. Students, just so you know, I take notes. You can kind of see my scribbling down here. This learning doesn't take place just in the classroom. I can continue to learn at the age of 35 here. So I've been taking notes of some of the things that Mr. Doleman has shared, and I've written down a few things, about the friendships, being like-minded. I love quotes, and I think our teachers love quotes as well, so I think this is one that they probably wrote down. If you don't have a plan for life, life will have a plan for you. Kind of the dandelion and the feather type of analogy to that as well. Dedication, perseverance, and faith to overcome obstacles, and how do you respond to that problem you're in control of. I think those are some of the notes that I have taken. You shared a lot with these students, Mr. Doleman, today, and a lot of great life lessons that they can take and apply to their individual lives. Is there anything you would like to either A, reiterate, or B, is there something maybe you didn't share with the students that you'd like to cover to close this program?
Well, it would probably be B. Every single day, as a young professional, and even to the point where I retired, I live my life by a couple of principles. And these are things that they should write down. And I think it would serve you greatly in life. One, you are what you repeatedly do. So if you're out hanging out with the druggers, you use drugs, you're a drug addict. Two, the best way to predict your future is to create your future. So being with the people who are like-minded and people who are interested in going to college and doing the right things. And three, you're judged by what you give, not by what you receive. And that's how I live my life. So everything that I was talking about all comes back to those three major principles of, my life.
Sorry for the delay there. I'm taking notes as well, so give me just a second. So, thank you, Mr. Doleman, and students. If you're all done writing here, taking notes, if you can join me and unmute your microphones and give them a round of applause and saying thank you to Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Chris Doleman. And Mr. Doleman, on behalf of the Hall of Fame, I know you're a new member here, being just recently elected in 2012, so you're still getting to know a lot of our staff here, but I know you know Steve Perry and Joe Horrigan and Dave Motz and our VPs. Absolutely. On behalf of all those folks, we want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy morning. You run two businesses. Obviously, that consumes a good portion of your life right now. So thank you for taking time out of your busy morning to do this program with us. And we have to thank the students, obviously, for the great questions. Well-prepared students, thank you. Just some awesome questions that even made Mr. Doleman stop and think for a second of how he would like to respond to that, and maybe even think back to some of the past people in his life. So thank you, students. Teachers, we have to thank you as well for everything, for making this connection possible. And obviously, you have a big fan, and Mr. Doleman's a big fan of teachers, so obviously you have a fan there, as you do with me as well. Not just because I have to be, because my wife's one. But last but definitely not least, we need to thank our friends at Polycom, our friends at eTech, all the folks. It took a team of people that to make this possible. So thank you, everyone, for making this connection possible, and this concludes our program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doleman.